All right, so you know why you're here. You've been wondering what it'd be like to have ITBs on your D16. And you don't want to go and spend the time, come over here, spend your Modelo time trying to cut up a stock intake manifold and making it fit and making it work. That's too much time. It looks ghetto. And it does work, but it's so much wasted time. And you want to know how to put it on. You just want it to hook up and go. Anyways, my homie Justin, he hooked me up. He made this KES adapter manifold for me. Man, this has been probably 3-4 years ago now. And this was kind of like like a beta test really, to see if it would work. And it does. I have ran the car with this. This is really cool. I like how it's perfectly port matched and it does the job. However, not super cost effective unless you're selling a ton. So he's got this billet version right here, made to order, a lot easier to produce. It isn't port matched exactly, but it doesn't really matter because you're not gonna have an injector right here. However, some of the big differences right here are going to be, see how I have these 90s coming off the bottom. This one does not, and that makes it incredibly hard to tune. So this is going to kind of help that out. All these go to the idle air control valve, and I'll show you what that part looks like here in a second that it goes to. Looks like this right here. So you'll have some lines running from those all the way to here, and your idle air control valve just bolts up right here. And then you got some mounting tabs, one right there, one right here, and you can put that wherever. So on this car, I have no idea where I'm going to put it at yet, but I'll figure it out and we'll get there when we get there. But back to this. So this is super cool. You plop her on. It is a pretty tight fit because the tolerances are super tight. Well, maybe not on this one, but oh yeah, that's right. I had to Dremel that out. So you got that on there. It's really easy. Goes on just like any other manifold that you put on. And then we've got the ITBs over here with these boots. So these are OEM Honda set of CBR boots. I'll be leaving the part numbers for them in the description below. And then same with these little clamps right here. I had to get those off eBay, but it's not too bad. Anyways, you get 2 of them. Justin will hook you up with this hardware right here. It's all provided. Just to bolt these onto the adapter manifold. So those will go on, boop, just like that. Bolt them on. And then from there you'll slide on your ITBs just like you would if it was a motorcycle. You just push them in. They're kind of tough because these ones are brand new, not really like broken in. I have ran it with this, but they've only been on here one other time. So they just push in, pop in, boom, now they're on there. Anyways, once you got those all bolted on, it'll kind of be up to you to figure out how you want to run your throttle cable. Not a super big deal. You could use the stock one and make it work. I did with this car, and it did run. I did not drive it because I ended up hurting the engine while tuning it. Which is why I'm saying, although this is a great product, this one is a little better. So I didn't have an idle air control valve hooked up at all. So I was trying to control the idle with the timing, and had a little backfire at the intake manifold, and that ended up burning an intake valve. So I'm sure there's probably other variables that went into that due to like the age of this motor and everything, but regardless, that's what happened, and I had to have this. It's just so nice. Something else that's also kind of cool, these provisions are also on the cast manifold. which you can see right there. However, they're not drilled and tapped. These ones are already drilled and tapped. And what this is for is your map sensor block, and you'll just literally bolt it right there. So I'm running the K series map sensor, and it just has a lot better resolution down low, and that's why I'm using that instead of like using a regular DBFH map sensor. So, but really nice product. Quality control is pretty solid. I did drop the box a little bit, so you might see a couple little dings, but that's on me. But super high quality piece. I'll show you guys how to install this here in a second, and kind of take you through a little bit of the troubleshooting process I had when installing this one at first. Some issues might be the same. It really just depends on your setup. I guess I'll kind of dive into that right now. So I have on my head, I have all the Speed Factory hardware. Same thing on the exhaust side. And it's really nice, really good quality stuff. However, an issue I ran into with this manifold and the other one is that this hardware has a little nub right here. And that little nub is actually bigger than the hole that's on here. And when I'm telling you this is tight tolerances, other than after I drilled it out, this thing was stupid tight tolerance. Like, you had to perfectly slide this manifold onto the head or you were not getting it on there. Even with the OEM bolts or studs, it was super tight. You had to like be very gentle, and then once you got it perfectly straight, then you can just go pop and it'd go on. So I had to drill those out mainly so they clear the nubs. So these are going to be a lot bigger than on this billet one, and you can clearly tell by my super great skill of drilling right there that not only are they not perfectly round, they are also a lot bigger. So, but that's on me. These were perfectly round when I got them. So nothing against Justin there. That was all my doing. But so something I am kind of interested in, I want to know if it's going to clear up this little hiccup, is I also have the Speed Factory thick thermal intake gasket. This thing's like an 1/8 inch thick, and that seems to be about how much that little nub sticks out. I was just gonna take my stepper bit and just barely put a little bevel on the inside of that, because I don't want to go too far deep, you know, and then start losing the structural integrity of this piece. So that's something I want to try out, test it out. If it works, y'all will see that it works. If not, you'll see that it doesn't work, and we'll have to come up with a different solution, or I'll just go back to, you know, just drilling these out. So, all right, so we got this on there. I will pull it off. Open up this thermal intake gasket. I'll probably also link this down below. That way you guys can, if it does work, you can go ahead and buy it. Seems to also be a very tight fit, even on Speed Factory's own product here. Not a big deal. Don't like how it has a wrinkle right there, but I think this might be the solution. That looks pretty freaking good. All right, moment of truth. Let's see if this solves the problem. I hope it does. I really do. That is extremely close. That might actually work. Let's see what's going on here. That might be the solution right there, which I'm super happy about. Basically torqued down. But I think that is what's gonna do it. That's all you need. I don't see any gaps. I think that's gonna work. So obviously I won't know for sure if there's any leaks or anything until I fire this thing up. But at least from the way this is looking, that intake manifold gasket is just enough to clear it, so you don't run into that issue that I had beforehand. And I kind of wish I would have known about that when doing this cast manifold right here. So that would have saved me a lot of time. I wouldn't have had to drill up such a nice piece, but we got this one. It's a lot better, and this one's way more available. So if you guys want one, I will leave the contact info for Justin in the description below, and you guys can hit him up at his Instagram. I'll put that right here. I think it's Inappropriate Motorsports. Super great guy, super talented dude, really knows his stuff, and he's actually super passionate about doing D-series stuff. So not a lot of people like that anymore. It's just a dying breed. So, but anyways, that's basically it. That is the whole thing. I need to clean up the rest of the ITB stuff before I put it on here, because it's got some dust and probably some metal shavings. But once I get that cleaned up, I'll toss it on and show you guys what that looks like. I don't remember how far I got in the last video or the other day. That's what I was talking about. But basically, I was just getting this manifold ready to install these on here. So whenever you buy one, I'm pretty sure, pretty positive, you'll get this hardware to go with it, which is what I'm screwing in right now. I don't think there's really a torque spec for it. I think it's just good and tight, because it's just some O-rings, nothing too crazy. So you just need those to seal up, and oops, oh boy, and call it a day. Yeah, it really doesn't take that much pressure to seal these up. I'm really only holding the 1/4 inch like this, so it's not a ton of pressure at all. It's almost like if you're putting a Phillips screw into something. Not a ton of pressure. I think it's time for me to grab the ITBs themselves and get them installed. So let me grab those real quick and I will be right back. Alright, so I got the ITBs right here. These things are kind of a pain in the butt to install if you've never done them before. You really got to make sure you're pushing it in all the way just right, because they are kind of a little booger to get in there. It's usually better if you got somebody to help hold the block if you're doing this on an engine stand, because these aren't even, they're not even in. that is, I guess, all it takes. You just gotta put a little sweat on it. Make sure the bottom looks good. Bottom looks good. So yeah, just take a little bit of sweat, put it on the boots, and then put a little bit on the ITBs itself, and then you can slide them right on. That's the easiest I've ever done it. I'm not even kidding. Now that we have the ITBs on, they don't really look that cool. So Justin hooked it up, made a couple of velocity stacks. These are all 3D printed, and they just slide right on. So they got 3 little bolts that go on there, and it's still a pretty tight fit. So that just pushes on just like that. But oh, and then for this side, CRV, or I guess like a D16 Y8 intake air temp. Part number for this guy, I'll probably put it down below, or it'll be on the website where you can purchase all this good stuff from. But that's basically how it sits on there. If you were to do this in more of like a OEM setup, I think the only thing that's non-OEM would be having these -6 lines or the AN fittings running like that. Everything else is OEM. OEM fuel rail. This metal piece right here is OEM off of CBR. Obviously OEM boots, and then these are custom. I do have a custom fuel rail that Justin made for this. I don't know if I'm going to run it just yet because I don't have instead of it running like this, it runs off the ends, and I don't have the fittings for it, so I may or may not run it, but I might put it on just to show you guys what that looks like. But either way, this is kind of what the engine will look like when it's all put together. Pretty neat. Now that I'm looking at it, it looks freaking huge. But I've had it in the car with essentially this setup, and there's a pretty good amount of clearance between here and the firewall, so I'm not super concerned about that. At a later date, I do want to get these made out of aluminum, but I know it's going to be pretty expensive, so that'll probably be a little ways into the future. But for now, this is perfect. This is exactly what I needed, what I wanted. And I'm pretty satisfied with how this came out.